And it's 3 o'clock if you're ready to begin. Have a great time, everyone.
Well, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Bienvenidos. I'm still Sandy Yannone, just with a slightly compromised voice. I've been talking to a lot of people while I'm here in Ireland, and I'm joining you tonight from Ennistimon, Ireland, in County Clare. I don't know if you could see behind me, but we are at the Falls Hotel, which is the family home of the McCarthys. And Dylan Thomas was married to a McCarthy, and her family owns the hotel. So it's a very historic hotel with direct connections to the poet Dylan Thomas. And I thought this would be a very fun place to broadcast from. Sorry that you can't see it a little clearer, but maybe as night falls here, it'll get a little clearer. Well, I'm Sandy Yannone, your host for this evening. For what good it is. It's our wild card open mic. And I guess this just adds a little to the wildness that I've been experiencing here from Ireland. And it's our third program. I want to thank everybody who came out last Sunday night when we were Kim and I were broadcasting from Cove with our special guests, Catherine Ronan and Judith Coffey. And all of you on the open mic were amazing. What an incredible program. So thank you for bringing your poems on to commemorate Titanic on the 112th anniversary from her last port of call, Cove, Ireland. Well, tonight, as I mentioned, it's our wild card open mic. We have a baker's dozen, that's 13 of you, for our featured readers. I want to assure you that while my voice is horrible, I'm not in any pain. So if you can stand me for the next 90 minutes, I'm going to try to scratch my way through it. And I've got a good pot of tea here, good strong Irish tea, the best with honey and lemon. So without further ado, I want to just remind you all to please use the chat this evening generously and respectfully. If you have a poem that would necessitate you offering a content notice because of its references to things that may provoke a trauma response in someone, please do. And please err on the caution of making the content notice. That kind of helps respect everyone in the room. And I've been thinking a lot about content notices. You know, if you tend to just say a little bit about what your poem is about, you don't have to go into great detail or length. In fact, you likely shouldn't go into great detail. But in general, if you say a little bit about this is what the poem's about, a person usually can make a good judgment for themselves. And I think that's the most respectful thing to do. As I mentioned, please use the chat generously. I'll probably put my comments that I might otherwise share with you after your reading in the chat to save my voice a little bit. So I'm just going to say the names tonight. I encourage you, of course, to use the chat to share events that are coming up. It is, of course, National Poetry Month in many countries around the world. And so please do let people know about any upcoming gigs you have or events in your area. We would be very, very happy to help spread the word about your events. Well, I happened to be at a wonderful event, ironically, in Cornwall, Connecticut, broadcast a hybrid event in Cornwall, Connecticut last night, where I got to hear Alexandra with a beautiful edition from the Flying series, Flying 18. And I'm very, very happy to see her with us tonight, joining us from Greece, Alexandra Psaropoulou.
Hello, you're only 2 hours away this time. So you did mention last time that you enjoy listening to other languages as well. So to make it a little bit more international, I'm reading this in Greek, and then I will add the file. I can't put the entire file, so I'm just adding half the poem and then the other half. I will add the poem at the end, just not to waste time. This is flying to. Το πέταγμα είναι ψηλά. Το πέταγμα είναι ψηλά. Το πέταγμα είναι το ψηλότερο. Διαρκεί για πάντα. Πάρε με πάνω στο τυρκουάζ άλογο. Πάνω από τα στάχια. Μέσα στον ήλιο. Για πάντα. Ψηλά βουνά πετώντας σωστά, χωρίς ανώμαλη προσγείωση. Βαθιά φαράγγια, ποτάμια που ρέουν, αετή ψηλά. Παίρνοντας με πάνω στο τυρκουάζ άλογο. Έρωτας, ελευθερία, ποίηση. Αν μπορείς να εμπιστευτείς τους ελιγμούς του μυαλού μου, αν μπορείς να δεχτείς τις φαντασίες της πραγματικότητάς μου, ζώντας τα παράξενα θαύματα και γνήσιες ευχαριστήσεις αυτού του κόσμου και άλλων, ζώντας εκεί όπου η φαντασία και η πραγματικότητα ενώνονται, ακολουθώντας τη διαίσθηση και τις διαισθήσεις του παρελθόντος, ακολουθώντας τα ορατά και τα αόρατα, ξαπλωμένοι δίπλα στη θάλασσα, κάτω από το ελαιόδεντρο. Ανοιχτά και έτοιμα, όλα αλλάζουν. Μη σκέφτεσαι σκληρά για τα φαντάσματα του παρελθόντος. Όπου η ενέργεια ανταμείβεται, όπου η ζωή τα δίνει όλα. Στα 14 και 16 με προετοιμάσανε για σένα. Παίρνοντας με πάνω στο τυρκουάζ άλογο. Πάνω από τα άγρια λουλούδια. Μέσα στα γέρη και στη φωτιά. Για πάντα. Το πέταγμα είναι ψηλά. Το πέταγμα είναι ψηλά. Το πέταγμα είναι το ψηλότερο. Είναι απόλυτο. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for doing that. You would be very welcome to bring the whole Flying series back in Greek. It's so lyrical. It's so different to experience it. And I hope that everyone appreciates hearing it in Alexandra's home language as much as I did. My gosh, that's beautiful. That's stunning. Thank you. Well, next we go to the Artful Dodger, Harvey Soss. Welcome, Harvey.
Thank you, and feel better. I'm going to try and squeeze two poems in, one longer, one short. I'll leave out the foreword to this. It's a pandemical Passover poem, I suppose. It's called How We Say Goodbye in Times of Plague. It is a daft wind, a butcher's apprentice, that wears on its apron raw smell of butchery. Certain post-messianic microbes geysered out of a cleft in the rock of ages with increasingly pandemic force. Enlist an army of carriers, butcher boys and girls, symptomatic and asymptomatic, to cut the strings of any meat puppet caught hanging about, regardless of whether he or she is last-born or first-born. An upgraded 10th plague. Not even a blood X on the lintel can be counted upon to keep us safe. We pray as we have prayed before, we die as we have died before, and when we ask for just a little more time, another turn or two around the clock face, we find that our old friend, the hourglass, has been superglued to the floor. How then could I or anyone contest your not pausing the 1 year, more or less, tradition demands between the burial and unveiling? Choosing instead to default to practicality, knowing that by this time next year I could be burying you or you me. Time, and it doesn't take Jules Verne's time machine to tell us this, is not on our side. Housebound, we are constrained to watch with you the uncoupling of body and soul via screen share, your MacBook Pro able to see and follow the soul rising, making a beeline for the collective consciousness. Now zooming in on an inscription, exposed in marbled nakedness, the muslin which hid it having been trampled underfoot, name, dates of birth and death, beloved husband and father, what anyone who knew him already knew, how important he was to us and to you. You pan to a pair of grave diggers, face masked and gloved, leaning on their shovels above your father's simple wooden box with ingrown nails, pacemaker on pace to be installed where the earth's heart fails. Surgical unionists debating the comorbidity of life and death. Standing by while you toss a few clods in and speak a few words, Yiskadal, Yiskadash, Shemay nothing we haven't heard before, certainly not after almost 6,000 years of graveside praying. The onslaught of Masada moments we have somehow survived. Still, we can't help but be concerned about the increasing numbers of our lost tribe known primarily by block and lot, their headstones tipped out of plumb by haters who would deny them and all who seek them the refresher course comforts of memory. No pauper types here, but no 1%ers to be found either, such as the worthies entombed at Brooklyn's Greenwood Cemetery in luxury hotel comfort those of us who employ hamburger helper can't afford. Perpetual care inclusive of room service, wildly expensive mausoleums where a mismatched Leonard Bernstein and Frank Sinatra co-headline eternity. A marriage of maestro and mafia. Your father, for all his belovedness, never having earned, as Frank and Lenny did, his place on a stamp. The diggers know that when you're through screening for us his burial come unveiling, they can break for lunch, waxing the harvest moons of their bellies full as those holes they've dug today, the cemetery grounds Swiss cheesed with them. Stay-at-home relatives and friends, not wishing to be organ donors yet, hide from successive rounds of whack-a-mole. You're trusting this on-site broadcast won't kill you, having, as the diggers have done, put on nitrile gloves, a sterilized perspective. Abjuring, as Job once did, self-distancing. Believing it your duty to mensch the short straw, to run the gauntlet of reflexive anti-vaxxers, shielded only by wet wipes and a prayer, supported by our crew of high-res pallbearers. We see in you that man we never saw, but hoped for at your bar mitzvah, saying goodbye with a mumbled mourner's kaddish, what little Hebrew you recall. A ceremony that might have been drawn from the imagination of Hieronymus Bosch, with a world-encircling virus penciled in, microbial Ouroboros, squeezing the life out of us. Second one takes us to Argentina, This is actually, I guess, a postscript. The mothers of the Plaza de Mayo consisted of Argentine mothers whose husbands, sons, or daughters had been declared enemies of the state by the military government, never to be heard from again. The mothers began their protests in 1977, the disappeared of Argentina. Comes that dirty war knock on your door to tell you that when the alarm clock has clapped its last castanet, there will be one less place to be set for breakfast. One more pile of tostadas or media lunas going untouched, the intelligent and the young hungry for change having disappeared into a rabbit hole. Neighbors will confirm this has all happened before, if not to them, then to someone you know, one of Los Desaparecidos, your usual fourth for bridge in need of replacement to Jose or Don Pedro. Some mother's son who, like yours, hadn't passed the loyalty test. Hatchlings chirping oppositional behavior, snatched by death squads from the nest. Later, you will be informed that your house first came under suspicion because its garage is left-leaning and not right. Your shutters fail to hang with that precision the junta prescribes. Under your loose-lipped roof tiles, a colorful mix of cafe insurrectionists and soapbox populists voice the vox populi, flashing that nervous look of pink flamingos poised for flight. Survivors, croissants cold now, register each fresh vacancy at the breakfast nook. The air trembles where a man should be. In the mouse trap of a Black Maria, confessors extract from abductees their last 7 words, springing Stasi-like past placards of a sidewalk protest visual. Mothers of the Plaza de Mayo, demanding return of their husbands and sons, unwilling to wait for resurrection. Thank you.
That's Harvey Soss, everyone. Thank you so much.
I'm going to do it in
Yeah.
Greek.
Yeah. I wish Carolyn Wright had been here to hear that poem. I'm gonna tag her on a so she could hear. Well, folks, if you're just joining in, I'm Sandy Yannone. I have a little bit of a compromised throat, but no fears here. I'm not in pain. And we move forward next with my pal in Olympia, Washington, Ken Burch.
Hi, Sandy. Hello, everyone. It's good to be here. I'm going to pull up, I've got one poem that is more or less called Ferry Boat Dream. It's an attempt to more or less describe a dream I had the other night, and it starts working with a sort of a structure, and then the structure breaks down towards the end as the images start getting faster as occurs in a dream. And there is a clear warning for simply a mention of nudity, nothing explicit and nothing enjoyable, and it's there. I mention it, and well, let's get started. I was back on the ferry suddenly. I was working back on the ferry suddenly. I was working in my steward's uniform back on the ferry suddenly. I was working in my steward's uniform years after having retired once and for all back on the ferry suddenly. And as well as that, to say the least, I was confused now. To say the least, I was confused and I was disoriented now. To say the least, I was confused and I was where I was seemed familiar now. To say the least, I was familiar and some faces were known to me. And as well as that, we were on a trip from Alaska south once again. We were on a trip from Alaska south through the cold waters of British Columbia once again. We were on a trip from Alaska south through the cold green waters of British Columbia, headed for Bellingham, Washington, which is south as we got. Suddenly, we were on a trip from Alaska south through the cold green waters of British Columbia, a place called something else, that Alaska had been called something else before the Boston men and trappers arrived suddenly. And as well as that, I was able to move. I was able to move inside and outside. I was able to move inside and outside of. I was able to move inside and outside of what some said were normal bounds. And as well as that, being able to move and being able to move outside and inside and being able to move outside and inside of what some said normal bounds and being able to move outside and inside of what some said normal bounds of what could and should not and could not be where one could move. And as well as that, I could leave the deck of the big blue boat. I could leave the deck and the limits of the big blue boat and the limits of where present, past, and future. I could leave the deck and the limits of the big blue boat, limits of where present, past, and future could extend. And as well as that, and in making this departure, I could now clearly see, and in making this departure, I could now clearly see beyond what I or anyone else in, on, or near this big blue boat should be able. And in making this departure, could clearly now see beyond what I or anyone else in, on, or near that big blue boat should be able to come to be aware of at that point. And as well as that, I found myself on a hill. I found myself on a hill not before known to me or to anyone. I found myself on a hill not before known to me or to anyone on or near that boat yet in Bellingham. Found myself on a hill not before known to me or to anyone in or near that boat yet in Bellingham, where we were meant to dock on Friday. And as well as that, it was mine to know whether I wished to know or not. It was mine to know whether I wished to know or not that we were arriving. It was mine to know whether I wished to know or not that we were arriving in a town a day too early. And as well as that, that was what was given to me to know. That was what was given to me to know at the moment. That what was given to me to know at the moment, whether I wished to have been informed or not, that was given to me to know at that moment, whether I wished to have been informed or not, was that I had not done what I would have done to prepare for arrival had we arrived a day later when we should. And as well as that, what that meant was that those who should have been awakened, cleaning rags and laundry bags placed outside their door. What that meant was that those who should have been awakened an hour earlier, cleaning rags and laundry bags placed outside their doors for the cleansing of their to-be vacated staterooms. What that meant was that those who should have been awakened an hour earlier, cleaning rags and laundry bags placed outside their doors for the cleansing of their to-be vacated staterooms had not been told. And at that point, picture fragments. I rushed through the cabin decks. Desperate to catch up and reclaim clarity. I rushed through the cabin decks, desperate to catch up and reclaim clarity. Rush into rooms still occupied. I rushed through the cabin decks, desperate to catch up and reclaim clarity. Rush into rooms still occupied. Leave. Rush into empty rooms. I rushed through the cabin decks. How did I get back to the big blue boat, by the way? It had not arrived at the dock. Rushed into rooms still occupied. Rushed into empty rooms and swamped by the heat. I rushed through the cabin decks. How did I get back to the big blue boat, by the way? It had not arrived at the dock. Rushed into rooms still occupied, rushed into empty rooms and swamped by the heat. Takes my clothes off and start cleaning the rooms naked. I rushed through the cabin decks. How did I get back to the big blue boat, by the way? It had not arrived at the dock. Rushed into rooms still occupied, rushed into empty rooms and swamped by the heat. Take my clothes off, start cleaning the rooms naked. Remember, there are other people working near me on the boat, and I can't do that. Realize I can't find my clothes. I cannot find my clothes. I am rushing around the car deck now because I cannot find my clothes. I run from the car deck. There's some luxury decks that were never on the boat when I worked there. Run through the food stores area where my code workers are loading in food supplies for the trip north. They acknowledge me yet tactfully ignore my nudity. Do not help me find my clothes. I know I am naked and doomed. I wake. Spend several minutes telling myself it did not happen. It did not happen. It did not happen. Thank you.
There is nothing. Make no mistake. There is nothing like a wild ride that we take with you through your mind when you do that kind of poem. I love them, and I've loved them since you began bringing them. This one was just all the more delicious because it was on a ship. Thank you. That's Ken Burch, everyone. Well, thank you. We move next to Thomas Emmett. Hello.
Hello. I guess I don't get as much of an introduction because it seems like everybody else here has perhaps, at least everyone else who's reading things kind of knows each other in some ways. So I guess I'll just sort of jump right in and start reading. I've got 3 poems. They're all around a minute or so in length. And the first one is called The Season of Change. 'Twas dimming, and the winding road disappeared in the gathering gloom. Fall time had come for the wandering ones, and the glow in the west would fade soon. Beware of traps for thought, dear ones. The serpent thou shalt, the siren thou shan't. Beware the Wendigo's hungry lies, and run from ruinous doctrine's grasp. Poised with proverbial pen in hand, long time in anxious acts engaged, till tension between intention and tendency pulled hands to press ink to page. And as each self helped hoist their own cage, straight artifices with graph and flame smoothed and skewed all the world's stage. A game of numbers they proclaimed. Produce, produce, consume, consume, like Sisyphus, go forth and back, blinded by rising lines of their own devising. Shake your head and escape, see past. And hast thou seen a different world? Bring it to be, my beamish girl. Hear ye, here be the season of change. All is in flux, all rearranged. 'Twas dawning, and the winding road hid secrets as sweet as the moon. New green could be seen amidst bowering trees, and the sun rose again towards noon. There we go. That's it's the first time I've said that out loud to anybody except for my wife. So I see, I see only one person, but she's
Thomas, I think you might have lowered the volume or something. I see you're unmuted, but we're not hearing you.
to her and I'm connected to my phone.
Now
Can you
you're
hear
on.
me?
Now
There you
you're
go.
on.
Yep. You're on
Okay.
now.
Give me a
Okay.
second because I'm just going to disconnect myself to my phone so that it doesn't do that again. Siri thought I was talking to her for a moment and just took over the whole world. So yeah, as usual. All right, so I'll just start that over then. I think you guys got to the end of the first one, so we'll.
We did. We heard the whole first poem.
Okay,
Fantastic.
Good. Okay, so on for song. If neurons that fire together wire together, do they tire together too? If we just choir together, aspire together, inspired, we're tethered. So choose your congregation well, because for song's a powerful spell. And when that music swells, self goes under, is sundered, renewed, mixed up with the brew. All you've been told begins to ring true. But wait, some truth was never out there. It's hidden inside. To see it, you'll need to grow inner eyes. So sometimes flee for song and seek the quiet of your closet, then close it and look. All you'll need is a thread to retrace your tread when you and your monster come out again. So that was on for song. And then we got Pride Month is the last one. Prithee, demon, this Pride Month season, please bring ruin to our inheritance of madness. These millennia of straight artifice and reason have been treason to nature, part folly, part malice. This oath to God, to king, to man, to growth, to a ghost, a heist, a geist, a boast, has crushed spirits and bodies of hosts upon hosts. O great satyr, satirize and sedate us, saturnaliate us. Great Pan, please awaken and aid us, pander poke and persuade us, inspiral our thoughts, disorientate us, disoxidant too. Too much that's toxic resides in that brew. Use the gay science, that joyous agenda. Bring down these false gods, these straight-laced pretenders, and lead us like children, uncertain, unburdened, to frolic in gardens, forgotten, unheard of. Banish the specter of refructify. Teach us that pleasure is not always and ever a means to the end. Go forth and multiply. Please, Pan, we need you, awake and alive. Help us defy and tear down the lies, truly to thrive in our work, building up towards a world worthy of pride.
That is fantastic.
Thank you.
Come back, man. Come back.
Maybe I will.
Maybe. Okay.
I mean, we'll see.
Yeah,
My
no,
favorite one is 6.5 minutes long, so unfortunately I can't read it here. But
well, there's ways to get around that. Different times, you know. Fantastic. Thank you so much. That's Thomas Emmett, everyone. Wow, you would have been perfect for our lyrical program at the beginning of this month. Anyway, loved it. Thank you. I do look forward to next time. All right, everyone. Well, I always look forward to hearing Marjorie Maddox. That's all I'm going to say for right now.
Okay, thanks, Sandy. I'm going to read a serious poem and then a very lighthearted one. So my uncle died in 2017, and it turns out that his calling hours were right during the eclipse of that year. So I'm going to read this one first. Calling hours, August 21st, 2017. While the moon moved across sun, we moved inside to your viewing. The face, yours and not yours, eyes closed but looking up at ceiling. The outside air starkly dark or not. We couldn't see behind the heavy curtains in that room of bereavement. But there we were with and without you, while the rest of the country put on their protective glasses and stared at what could harm them. What can harm us lingered there beneath the bright posthumous display of the body and its accomplishments of self, dressed up grief stripping clean in the lonely weeks after, bright bursts of fear from looking directly or too long into the face of the loved, while, as Auden knew, the impersonal sun keeps diving into the sea, keeps rising with or without the sorrow we think we'll drown from. What will drown us steals your name, Harvey, and simultaneously spins a different destruction, the rain and wind inside us, now on street and shore, in bedroom and barn, sky a shadow of shroud large enough for the land to collapse in or sink under. Our eclipse and theirs, what can harm us lingers there beneath the bright faces of bereavement, no protective glasses when we move with the moon across sun. And then just recently I got the proofs for this lighthearted book, which is a collection of poems about spelling mnemonics. So I before E, except after C, that kind of thing, and little grammar tricks, the difference between its and its, things like that. And there are graphics in these. So I'm just going to read one. There's an ant on the defendant, and it's shaped like an ant. There's an ant on the defendant, surreptitiously circling the ear. Will he spill into the oracle when the gavel galvanizes the guilty for, once again, guessing the wrong answer? Will his abdomen stitched together like red ellipses twirl about the tympanum, a whirlpool waiting to happen? He took a wrong turn on his way to a picnic and ended up, so pitiful, on the prosecutor's list. The jury is all editors, the judge a perfectionist. Where are the others in his army? Independently, this star witness is a wimp and won't withstand cross-examination. His only chance is to chant his genus to a man now chewing hyphens across pencils. Do the errors require incarceration? The ant's not after retaliation, just remorse, a simple admission of guilt, recognition of injustice served daily to the misspelled, the uncorrected. Okay, thank you.
I love poetry about grammar. I think it's genius. I love it. Oh my God. I can't wait for that book. It's Marjorie, Maddox, everyone. Folks, you are just killing me tonight because I'm not supposed to talk. And I can't help it now because it's so good. Oh my gosh. Well, as if good. Next is Justin Hamm. Holy mackerel. Glad you're here tonight, Justin.
Hi, Sandy. I hope you feel better, or that you get the voice back pretty soon.
I feel great.
Well,
My
that's good
voice-
news.
My
So,
voice just sucks, but I kind of need it.
well, I'm just gonna do two today, and the first one doesn't have a real serious content warning unless you're put off by lonely poets and clowns, which can be a content warning for me sometimes if they jump up unexpectedly. So this is called "The Smallest Crowd Ever to Attend One of My Readings." The smallest crowd ever to attend one of my readings was a lone grandmother in futuristic spectacles who I worried had wandered in by mistake. But she was a keen listener who sighed and placed her hand to her chest at all the right moments. God bless her. In fact, she was only a hair less enraptured than the folks at this birthday party I once attended, where an admittedly gifted clown sat on a stool, blinking his makeup-caked eyes and twisting balloons into strange shapes from every kingdom, phylum, genus, and species ever to feature in a special on the Discovery Channel. He was quite good. Even the adults were hopeless with admiration, lifting their souvenirs to the light, whistling, grinning, and shaking their heads. He's an artist, somebody's dad or uncle proclaimed, and a murmur of agreement circled the room. On a nearby table, a coffee can overflowed with tips. I'm not really bitter. I have always believed jealousy can be a fine teacher if we allow it. From my distant corner, I nudged the cat away with the toe of my shoe, wiped the green frosting from my mustache, and began to write everything down in my pocket notebook under the heading Ideas for Future Readings. And I'll just do one more. This one is I lost my mom about 15 years ago. This is a little more serious one, and this is about the ways that the dead remind us that they're still with us. This is called Payphones in the Underworld. My best friend texts me a picture of a letter my mother sent him the year she died. He had almost forgotten about it and wants to know whether I want it for myself. But the power isn't so much in the ownership. It arises from the surprise and seeing the long loops of her letters unexpectedly, how they seem to carry the very sound of her voice. The dead know these things. At just the right moment, they leave off from doing their secret dead doings and find a payphone. Fish around for change deep in the pockets of their burial suits. The call comes through, and on this end, I pass a Camaro just like the one Mom rose hell with when we were kids. Or the V.C. Andrews novels stacked at the community yard sale resurrect in my mind the rhythm of her breathing as she read Evenings by Yellow Lamplight in our smoky trailer. But it's no use calling them. The dead almost never answer. You only tie up the line as they stand patiently by, tapping bony fingers to skulls and waiting for the ringing to stop so they know for certain the need for reminder has ripened. Thanks, folks. I appreciate you so much, and I appreciate this gathering.
That's Justin Hamm. Those are two fantastic poems from different ends of the spectrum. But I want to just say, there's something, now that we don't have rotary phones, or most of us don't, there's something very intoxicating and mystic about the old telephones and the way they operate and how we receive things. It's an incredible metaphor. Justin put information. I hope I get it right. It's a Museum of the Americana. Please do. Folks will be very, very interested. I certainly am. Thank you so much, my friend. I'm so glad you're here tonight. Well, a poet that I was just, my heart just was so full when I got to meet Cathal MacThréinfhir here in Limerick. Oh my gosh. I'm looking forward to hearing your poems, my friend. I'm right down the road. I'm right down the road.
You
I
are
know.
indeed.
I know. I hope
Well,
I'll see you.
When you go back to Limerick, I will stand you lunch before you go home.
Yeah.
I need you to sign some of your books for me, so we'll talk then. But okay, I'll be quick about this. Just three little short poems for you. The first one's called The Journey Home. When I contemplate time and muse upon a home where the heart is not gone, to hear a siren song that hangs lilting on air to honey sweet the ear, to drowse away the day adrift upon a mere, where blossoms floating there upon its surface clear shimmer in the half-light to fill the eye aflame to chart the journey home. And the second little short one, I'll just give it quickly to you, is called The Rising Rhyme. And I dedicate it to everybody here because it's what you normally do. You sit, you try to create a poem with a blank page. It's called Rising Rhyme. I search for a line to dip into the pool of memory, to wade against the pool of time, seeking a resonant reincarnation with rising rhyme and story. I sit in silence waiting, the oculus of the middle eye burning cold, the blank page white like death covers the written words in a sheath of creation's living flame. And I'll just end quickly with a little poem called Hauberk, which is the French Norman name for the chain mail or chain shirt, mail shirt worn by Norman knights. About 2 years ago, it was discovered in Leinster a chain mail which was 800 years old, and there was a full piece of chain mail. You could actually wear it still, which is unknown to be found throughout Europe. It's very rare. It's called a hauberk. And so I imagined the Norman knight who wore this moving into Ireland 800 years ago as they were attempting to subdue the land to Henry II. It's called hauberk. Line is the Gaelic for Leinster, and Mott and Bailey was the initial structures that they built once they moved into an area. So anyway, hauberk. In the middle lands of Line, drawn deep within the bog lane, black turf, dark sunk, squelched it lay, unremembered under the dead clay, covered in centuries in iron, linked deep, mail, tunicked and chain, each link a torqued turning in time and space, Norman named Auberk. 800 winters had passed since its wear had held fast to build Mott and mounded Bailey in a deed done to conquer, to subdue painted Gael with sword and shield, destroy their ring-walled forts with armoured arms and horse. When last he who wore that chainmail looked out upon an Irish sky to hail the morning with the warmth of the sun upon his face, did he let his falcon fly to greet the new day? That's it, my friends. Back to you, Sandy, and a lovely evening so far. Take care, all.
That's Cathal MacThréinfhir. Thank you so much. You know, folks, Kim and I have been so fortunate to immerse ourselves in hearing poets here in Ireland from the different counties and the lyricism. You know, there's lyricism in all languages. And so it's been just very, very humbling and beautiful to just hear poet after poet here in Ireland. Thank you so much, Cathal. Well, now we go to my salmon brother, just outside of Dublin. I can't wait to see you again because I have met you once before, long ago, in 2018, I think, in the States. But I'm really looking forward to your launch. Congratulations, Phil Lynch.
Thank you very much, Sandy. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope your voice has well recovered by then. So I'm going to do two poems. The first one is a poem I wrote after a visit some years ago to the town of Guernica, which is a town in the Basque region of northern Spain. And this week happens to be the anniversary of the bombing of that town during the Spanish Civil War. It was no warning aerial bombing targeting the civilian population by fascist supporters of Franco in the Civil War. So it's just my reflection on being there and on what had happened before, and my own shadow behind it is that I was in close proximity to a major bombing in Dublin many decades ago as well. Anyway, Guernica. With the pounding Atlantic still sounding in my ears, I sit and listen to the local sounds and hear waves of children's playground voices. From an open-air cafe, the constant crackle of their mothers' conversations ebbs and flows like interference between competing foreign stations on an old transistor radio. In the background, sharp and urgent whistle blasts as the red-buried policeman clears the way for the rush of a local cycle race. To my regret, I understand nothing of these spoken sounds, except the odd quick burst snatched from occasional passing French tourists. But whatever the dialects, such sidewalk scenes have a universal language of their own. Local gossip, last night's television, schools reopening soon, the price of clothes and books, the choice of subjects. It was probably much the same the day the other noise came, unheralded by any warning whistle, business as usual, streets uncleared, children and mothers and fathers alike barefooted, bareheaded, and unprepared, an instant and innocent sacrifice. The shock, like the cries in the silent after noise, has long subsided, but it has, and it will, happen again. The second piece mentioned already a few times. It's Poetry Month and it's Poetry Day Ireland here next Thursday, and you're well up for it, Sandy. And the theme this year here in Ireland is good sports. So this is a poem. The only warning required is frustration of people trying to write poems, perhaps, and also to try to make a fortune on backing racehorses. So this is called Long Shots. Actually, this will be, you mentioned about all the counties poetry events. Damien Donnelly, who I think you may know, is producing a podcast for Poetry Day on Thursday with somebody from all of the 32 counties of Ireland reading a poem each. So this one is actually in it. So this is called Long Shots. We meet in the lounge of the local, less noisy mid-morning than the cafe next door. At the bar, hunters pick plausible propositions, pausing sips of early morning pints to place bets in the bookies upstairs. They know the day will breed frustration more than celebration. They ignore the science of experience for the compensation of the chance to beat the odds. We, on the other side, are poetry partners picking pronouns and prepositions to fit the lines, mine and hers going neck and neck towards some illusory finishing post, a book against all odds, or mere crumpled pages in the wastepaper pile of also-rans. The going can be good at times, heavy at others, mostly fair to middling. We race along together in pursuit of precarious projects. Whether crafted with skill or stumbled upon by chance, the rare success of a winning formula breaking the line at just the right time renders the chase worth the while. Thank you very much.
I can't unmute. There I go. Thank you. That's Phil Lynch, everyone. New collection coming from Salmon Poetry. The launch is on April 28th. That book's upstairs, and I'll be there for sure. Voice or no voice. It'll be better if I don't have a voice for most people. Anyway, thank you so much. And Poetry Day Ireland is gonna be wild. So much going on. It's like poetry nirvana here. It's amazing. Well, next we get to hear from Guy Chambers. I'm so glad you're here tonight, Guy.
Thank you very much, Sandy. Yeah, I got a couple poems here I'm going to read here. And this one I written a while back there, so I call it Nomads. Blown playing drifter, concealed in the unknown spirit world. Gifts of Asian centuries hidden in the mysteries pathway. An outreach lone hand, a face of space, camouflage from the blessed native land. Rises out of the vegetative roots of the never-ending fields, then vanishing like a lone wolf, leaving no footprints, back to the mysterious pathway of lost centuries. That was just my short one here. My next one here, this is a poem I written about, this has happened to everybody in life, sort of like that. And this is more happens to a lot of the old couples, you know, they've been together for years and years. So I call this one Sunday. A gentleman, and as an afternoon Sunday begins in a stale room, absent of perfume, staring out a broken window as a sunny day glows, thereby a dresser. In a dresser drawer, there's where the Bible is stored. Quiet and shy, watching the sky go by with a sigh. All spruced up, nevertheless, in his Sunday's best, black tie and tail, threads so detailed as the same as before. Grips his cane that holds his pain, heads out of the brutal gloom of his apartment room. That's popcorn rent. That's where most of the time is spent. Here's a radio in a hallway echo. Steps down the stairs that creaks. The lighting is so bleak. Opens the outside door, so antique, with irritating squeaks. Heads down the street. Slow steps in his feet to his Sunday restaurant where he's been going for so long. A table for two, that has to do, that's looking down the avenue. Lays down his nickels and dimes, what he's done for some time, to order a dish of soup and fish for two. After a bellyful, he heads out the door and goes down the avenue to pick up a special flower, so colorful, from his favorite flower shop. They're so thoughtful, just for him, on every Sunday. With his spirit will, he goes to the hill, to the God's green acres, away down the avenue, sits on the bench, across from the headstone, standing there alone, all alone. The name on a headstone calls to mind. All the whispers so fine, the fingertip touch in so much. Hugs forevermore, snugs furthermore. Speechless nevertheless, for many words have already been spoken. Love is so hard when you give yourself away, but still being there. Deep smile keeps a while. He lays the flower down, as many times before, beside the headstone, knowing that he's not alone. He's not alone, as a tear comes to his eyes. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. That's Guy Chambers. It was moving. I don't know, I felt all the nostalgia coming through. Nostalgia is the wrong word, but it evoked a lot for me. Thank you so much. Oh, I love when we get to hear from Phynne-Belle. I can't, that's all I'll say.
Hello, Sandy. It's good to see you after a long time, and good to see you in Ireland. Lovely. I hope you're having lots of fun. I could tell you're having lots of fun despite the sore throat. So 3 poems from me. I'm suffering from allergies, so I'm a little raspy. The first one is titled To the Sea. Milk, coughed up, blue tinged. Seawater, thin blood foam. A virgin spasms, rosy, a tall to the seeing eye, refractory to the prismatic imp. My forest feathers carry the rainbow of telling colors aloft into the blackest part of nighttime. What would you give to steal a glimpse of me in slumber, cloak wings parted, gold vein leaf skin, sighing your hidden name? I am telling the story as it arrives lapping upon my shores. I say that now. A dialogue between opaque hearts, a solitary soliloquy soul. I want to write to us in reverse from farewell to hello, from bitter back to sweet. In this way, I remember, I don't recall yet how the story learns conception. I lie. Who resurfaces when my back is curved away? Who remains when I take that step, another, one more? I will create this distance. I am the pathways multiplied by our comings and goings, my body, and exploration of profuse moss green terrain. A map unnavigated. We have trampled it. We are aimless. Gaze here long enough, love. Love. Your eyes blur directions. Who between us leads us astray? An islet left untended, unguarded, weakens its borders, gives way to the ocean's mouth, a surrender. Why do we armor the sand, fevered and sinking? How do the slender tree trunks sprout spears? Fruit, pregnant and low, are feeding cannons. We find peace inside nowhere, a speck, a consequence. Train your eyes to shudder the horizon, love. Love, your sight betrays you. Why are you convinced that we are at war? That's poem 1. Poem 2 is, oops, my computer went off. Oops. Is dedicated to my mom. She passed away in 2017. So this is for her. It's called Diyosa ng Kasaganaan, which means Goddess of Abundance in Tagalog. My mama, Luby, laughed the rising sun, full belly rich, into the still, dark nestle of the pigeon coop. Startling its carousel navy and morning gray residents, my mama relieved the swaying bamboo rack of its gleaming stiff flights, arranged them gap-toothed even upon the clothesline, shifted their curtains of starchy cloth, shifted clouds from forming, from brewing their storms above head. My mama, siren calling, teeming sea of cats in her wake, waves of hunger rising, with response in husky feral voices. Feed us, mermaid queen, they rejoin in asynchronous chorus, tempo lulls, tempo feverish. My mama, Pied Piper ballerina, choreography of fingers swirl in yesterday's toasted rice rind, in abundance of bronze scale snowfall, in transparent curved comb of naked fishbone. Rejoice, their murmur swells and washes over their numbers. Today, we are such well-fed gents. My mama, Diwata, summons the rainfall now at will. Libra balances of full moon, silver palangana gracing her left hip, wooden ladle divining stick aloft in her right palm. The thirsty soil prayed through the night to be quenched. Anituntabo, moody fickle goddess, their fervent whisper ripples the ground. Will you be the face of kindness on this day? And the final poem is titled Conifer. The coniferous tree in the front yard has no one who she may claim as her kin. I noted this one day taking in the solitary nude fan palm and her eager sprite cousin waving at me 3 neighborhoods away. The 3 crone Italian Cypress sisters huddled together, but never more distant, cold, and apart. I understand innately. I understand as women how to bear the burden of companion seedlings sworn loyal. Is a family a single organism of devotion and sacrifice? Do they carry every unrealized dream firmly within each roughened whorl? The weeping willow, or is she a pepper tree? Is free and single as far as she knows, slip showing, dipping below her diaphanous outerwear, red lipstick, Pollock frenetic smeared. A daily dawn hour walk of shame. I feel I have known her past incarnations. I feel where we intersected, then dissected our past lives. I suppose I could ask the arbor doctor about the pine when he comes by, but I am not given to small talk. I am not easily conversant still. I talk this man up, make him redwood mighty. Yet he is not a physician of flora green who takes down life in its prime when he is commanded to do so. He asks not questions. He knows not of his sins. I bless and forgive him. I do not ask the conifer her name. I do not want to know. We do not communicate with each other in the way I divulge my life story with abandon and with glee to the sleek prism-bathed native crows as they observe me from fresh tree stumps, or to the citrine bejeweled calliope hummy as she pauses a mere pulse beat to listen. I do not ask the conifer her name. I have found comfort in our companionable silence, in both of us each holding a secret of our own. I know one day soon I will invite her to join me for coffee in the early morning. I will throw the doors wide open as I let the world inside. I will feel my chest expand, my breath even out as she uncramps history-ravaged limb to feel her way along the dim entryway to the bright indifference of a kitchen perpetually in use, but not ever loved nor lived in.
Phynne-Belle, what a set. What a set. And I want to also say, first of all, sorry for your loss. And there's no better way to commemorate our beloveds than with poetry. Beautiful poems. Beautiful poems tonight. Thank you so much. Wow.
I'm finding that out slowly. I'm finding that out, the grief is
Yeah.
being really emotional.
Just keep moving with grace, sister. Just keep moving with grace. Just keep moving with grace. Yeah. Oh. Well, it's a good night for me when I get to hear some poetry from Jennifer Elise Wang. Hi.
Right. Hey, thanks for having me. My first piece it began as an attempt to write fantasy, but I've been thinking, a lot about Israel and Palestine. So content warning about that and about Aaron Bushnell's self-immolation and also about assault. It's kind of a heavy piece, but so just content warning. This is Valkyrie's Lament. Valhalla is empty. The mugs of mead overflowing are untouched. The swords and shields of the hall, tarnished and dusty. With no duties to perform, we feel as lost as soldiers returning to civilian life. No one noble wants to battle for eternity, or even be reminded of battle. All the warriors have wounds deep in their souls. Valhalla is empty, so its keepers look elsewhere, away from the field of battle. We remember that shields can block, protect, resist, and find not fighters in war, but against it. The ones who sacrificed their own lives without taking another. The ones who pointed flowers at soldiers. The ones who risked being beaten and raped. The ones who gave themselves a Viking funeral to call for peace over victory. Peace that we can give them. Valhalla doesn't have to be empty anymore. And I've just got one other piece. Since it's National Poetry Month, I thought I would read my Ars Poetica. I still consider this my artist statement, even though I wrote it 20 years ago now, almost at like 17. I still love it. It's called A Poet's Joy. Alone at my desk, with Keats and Dickinson in mind, I invoke the muses and graces. Come transform these bottled emotions into something beautiful. My pen touches the paper, and I feel the catharsis. Let my hatred tear the pages as curses unsaid become eloquent metaphors. Let my sorrow flow through the ink like the tears I never cried, until nothing is left of my burning rage except the embers of my words. I kill my self-loathing with pride in this masterpiece. Poen Plath knew the pain and pleasure of a poet's art, and sadness and anger is bliss.
Thank you so much, Jennifer Elise Wang. And yeah, I appreciate how you just, we're getting used to content notices, folks. Appreciate how Jennifer did that. Also, I appreciate that poem. And I had the opportunity to march here in Cork yesterday. I don't know the count, but there were hundreds and hundreds of people. And they do it every Saturday. 27 weeks they've been marching in Cork for peace, to bring peace to Palestine. So thank you very much. Well, really, Karen Warinsky, you're practically my neighbor. So I'm looking forward to meeting you when I return. Some people keep saying if, but it's when. My mom's here. I don't want her to get nervous that I'm not coming back. So one of the reasons is so I can meet you in person.
Well, and we need you in the house in September. So you promised you'd come down. So I'm happy to be here. I haven't been here since January. And in honor of your trip to Ireland, Sandy, I'm going to read a piece about Dublin. I was in Ireland in 2012, chaperoning a high school field trip. I want to go back when I can just go with like maybe one other person and wander around. But I love it there, and I have a little Irish heritage. So this is a more serious piece. It does mention war, and it's called Down in Dublin. It glistened green as promised, mesmerizing jewel of legend, pain, and perseverance. Upside down, I kissed the stone, saw moss on the gray castle walls, and a row of golden helmets enshrined in a church. Tribute to war that takes all from those leaning on the promise of heaven. An old man played accordion for coins atop the Ring of Kerry. Famine villages revealed their ghosts, while down in Dublin, we danced with locals outside the foggy dew, debated where to dine, listened while Angela Murphy gave us directions. 1,000 homeless sleep in Dublin, sliver of the world's billion displaced and dreaming under a common sky, while fortunate emigrants warm in beds with raw memories of Ireland. Solitary, like the monks rising up 700 feet into the sky in the crags of Skellig Michael. They wait on the day, mourn the vanished, try to feel the pluck of Dagda's harp. And that's, oh, thank you, guys. That's in my first book, which is called Golden Autumn. I have two more short pieces. Oh, thank you. This one is about nature. And believe it or not, for as much loss as we're experiencing in the natural world, there are things that come back in different locations. And I was sort of surprised to learn this. So I wrote this piece. It's called Reclamation. Old stone steps vanish from view year by year, vines and ferns strangling them in slow determination, the house already turned to earth. But the stones, though hidden, remain fixed, like how bright summer light overtakes spring's delicate tinge, or how fall grabs the bolder greens, splashing them leaf by leaf with jewel tones of vermilion, aubergine, cerulean. How winter withers that beauty in its own strong grip, each season reclaiming its place. Hearts too can be reclaimed, like the Lycinidae of England, velvety blue butterflies nearly lost in the depleted meadowlands, re-emerge with care, with tending, with desire for another chance at love. And I have one more very short one. It's along the same lines, and it does mention war, but it's a hopeful, it ends hopefully. It's called Brought Back. I write a lot of these after I go for walks. The tops of the trees, green pine, white birch, oak waiting to bud, and an Ajax sky of filtered light draw my eyes up. Inspiration is there, but my feet need attention, and the dirt path brings me back to hard realities. Dead pine needles, bits of corn stalk, sadder white stone, my own pain, and a viral world full of war and sorrow, discord, drama. I walk on, view the unplowed fields as birds sing to themselves, put aside their questions, make their joyful noise. Thanks for listening.
That's Karen Warinsky, everyone. Thank you so much. And I'm going to Dublin for the very first time. So if you have any tips, send me a little email. Those great poems. Thank you. And I'm really looking forward to meeting you. Well, we close out our features for tonight before we go over to our waiting list. I'm optimistic we'll get everybody in. And oh my gosh, it's always a good Sunday. We carry the Lilleys in the room. Thanks so much for being here tonight, Gary. Good to see you.
Thank you. Take care of that voice, really. Take care of it. I'm going to start with this poem is Where Hope Sometime Goes. The shirt factory's old man janitor, he had the most seniority. But these days, the job is where Hope goes to get his ass kicked. His sugar daddy name hasn't been in anybody's mouth in over a year. He's been on a textile mill job search, and he wants to keep his less than half his age ex-girlfriend, whose kids and their dogs and their no child support, never had a job daddy, all still hate him. So maybe he doesn't think he has any luck left as he rolls down the unemployed highway, wondering whether it would be best to get hit by the car that's coming behind him fast and squealing through the curb like a bounced check, or to complete the more certain exit, an 18-wheeler ramped up to 90 miles per hour, coming down at him on the straightaway, probably driven by a meth head trucker drinking a can of Red Bull and masticating a plug of Climax original chew tobacco. Because he knows that a trucker knows that some days when you look at what life gives you, there's nothing else left but to swallow the spit. And I hear a lot of stuff about the unwoke. So this one here probably needs like the woke people probably, that's a good thing to me. So I wrote a poem about the unwoke. So that may offend somebody who is unwoke, you know. And what about the unwoke? Are they what we used to call zombies when we were allowed on Friday nights to stay up late for shock the ear horror movies on a black and white television set? Who knows what this is all about and what happens next after a bloodbath is a post-election threat of the potentially losing politician? Am I one of the grown-up, utterly unarmed in this American gun city across the water inside of Canada? And is there any freedom, any safety, any protection from the law? Is there any way to avoid checkpoints? Those streets named for founding fathers, white men, slavers, Washington, Jefferson, Monroe, Jackson. Is there any way to avoid the checkpoints while trying to get the hell out of here by catching the Black Ball ferry line to Victoria? Are there more Black people there than here? A sad MAGA hat town with a history of logging and spotted owls, a paper mill and fishermen, and the border patrol that eats that Kentucky Fried Chicken. This is a proper setting for a TV series about werewolves and vampires. And why am I stared at going to Swain's to buy socks and underwear, but I feel relatively safe in the bookstore? So can I go on reading and just keep my head on the swivel so I'll be able to put my third eye on everything and everyone? Can you see me now? Should they all have to wear beards, including their unwoke wives, or should they just shave them off?
That is the uncomparable, uncompromised Gary Lilley.
Thank you.
I lived where you lived. I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking.
I always like to bring stuff here to share with people because this is really, really a good audience. So I'm going to end with those two.
Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Be well.
You too.
Yeah, I'm great. It doesn't sound like it, but I'm good. All right, everybody. Let's get through our four folks. It's one poem, so we can hear all four people. Okay, we'll start with Charlene Neely.
Hi. Well, this is a poem I wrote after hearing about the gold medal for the Rosie the Riveters. And it has a, I guess you'd call it an epigraph, gleaned from the not quite 3 and a not quite 4-year-old's memories almost 80 years later. And I have a scratchy voice too, I'm sorry. Grandma's name wasn't Rosie, and she probably wasn't a riveter, but she, like many women, worked at our local defense plant. Doing what? I don't know. Maybe riveting, maybe not. Whatever. It was a dirty job, but it paid well. She took the bus across town to the Goodyear plant, dropping my grandfather off with my mother, my brother, and I waiting along the way. Later in the day, my mother, my brother, my grandfather, and I boarded the bus at that same stop, rode it to the end of the line, around the loop, and back home. My grandmother got on at the stop nearest the plant, and after my mother, my brother and I got off where we got on, Grandma and Grandpa rode on to their apartment over a downtown bar, where Grandma fixed their supper, put him to bed, and got what sleep she could until time to rise, dress Grandpa, help him down the steep stairs and across the street to the bus stop. It was hard work, but it paid well. And as an afterthought, I did a little research on the history of the plant. And at that time, female workers started at 45 cents an hour. Male workers got 60, but they both could get automatic raises till they reached 80 cents. So that's the way it was in the 40s.
I really appreciate, you elevating this, bringing this story back into the present, and with the commemoration. It's a really great topic for a poem. Thank you so much. All right. I've been waiting to hear this guy all night. Oh my gosh. Zomkhonto, yeah. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who came before me for the gift of poetry. A blessing indeed. The poem I'll share with you is entitled Back in the Day. Back in the day, you could order true love with French fries on the side because you knew the farmer was anti-chemicals. And the French kisses were just a bonus because you wanted lips soaking in the very energy of I love you. I'm so happy you're here. Then love got cancerous and you could walk down the street counting dozens of open mouths with sores. And it saddened songbirds how many people chose to stay inside more. Back in the day wasn't even so back in the day because we used sundials to calculate time. So the sand was always put to good use compared to now where all sand is thrown into fresh graves. So none is left for our gardens because even roses got darker and darker until each petal looked like the Grim Reaper's coat. Remember when you could gloat about good neighbors? Now all this currentology has neighbors complaining about you raking leaves than asking if your tree needs some extra water. Back in the day, a tree would grow so wide it fed fruit to the other side of the fence. Now even trees have grown T-Rex branches, and the authorities have placed taxes on each apple, and Judas now sells each branch to a logger for 30 pieces of silver. Back in the day, even days themselves had names. Now it's meet you whenever, as if we truly have that much time in the world. And when you die, people flock to the grave like flies on shit, knowing damn well they continuously shit on your legacy. And the smell never bothers them at all, because they would love to have watched you live as you decompose. But back in the day, was suspicious too, because no matter how much it warned us about today, we were so damn sure that back in the day would remain where it was. So when we started losing the things we loved, the clock was too old to be unwound. Back in the day, they tried to warn us that there are so many sewers that can burst at that very same moment when everything smells like heaven. And that when it overspills, you won't be able to tell which is hell and which isn't. Back in the day, you could have never doubted each heaven you visit because real angels resided there. Zomkhonto.
There's a reason that this program is called Cultivating Voices. Oh, to hear the voices tonight. Oh my gosh. Zomkhonto, you are spectacular. You are, they broke the mold with you, my friend. broke the mold. Thank you. Oh. Well, another person I broke the mold with. Isaac Cohen. Oh, it's always a good Sunday when I see Isaac Cohen.
Dear Sandy, dear Kim, dear Don. Isaac Cohen. Love. Nose to nose, face to face. Mother of love, order. Get united. Thank you, Isaac Cohen, Israel, and I hope you feel good, Sandy, and all my friends in the world, and happy Passover and happy Easter to all my friends. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I have to say that I know my mom, I know that'll make my mom feel really good when she sees you. So thanks for showing up tonight.
Yeah,
Gosh,
thank you.
thank you. Kashiana Singh. Oh, I'm so happy to see you. And I'm just remembering that night. Just remembering that night in Kansas City when you sat behind me at Wednesday night poetry. Oh, delicious.
That's your book. Thank you, Sandy. All my love. Take care. Take care. I'm going to read a poem. It's called Dot Walking. The only warning I would have is anything with regard to Eve and the history of Eve and curse of being the one to birth. Dot walking. Reference chapter 6, verse 12, book of Revelation. And the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. Dot walking is a technical term for relationships. One point to another on a computer program, glide marks on an association map, traceable breadcrumbs of all our destinies. Map of dots wanders into future from our past, licking itself alive at the oasis of names, our names, it ripples a bejeweled lake of basaltic lava. The Japanese story about worms feasting the walking dead, the Japanese story about worms feasting the walking dead is called Yoma. Yoma of their fable is Yama in our tales. What I am trying to say is that at the end of life, questions still throb loud inside voids of open mouths. Breath is but a pulse. It dot walks towards the skinless pods of death. Naked Eve glides into battles, dot tracing the beginnings when she was evicted from selves, venom of ivy shoved into empty wombs. Venom of pain in gurgling oceans, tracing moonlight prayers inside phantom limbs. A God said birth. A God said birth, and she birthed. Scraped at flesh from her own breath, sewed him a foreskin, welded a forked bone to make him spine, then left him a solitary dipper in 88 constellations. scraped at flesh from her own breast, sewed him a foreskin, welded a forked bone to make him spine, then left him solitary dipper in 88 constellations. Almost eclipsed, the sun is now dragonless. Rainbows are tarnished, waters of the Umbra break again, then God calls her to be mother again. She says, wait for future wombs. She says, wait for future wombs. Have you ever met the balsamic moon? In her last cycle, she rests. It is time to die, time to be born. Dot walking. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
You know, I love it when the alchemy of a night or a day on this program ends exactly where it should end. It's like the box clicks shut perfectly. And that is what you, Kashiana Singh, just did this evening. Clicked the box shut, which actually opens everything. The beautiful paradox in life. There it is. Everyone, for our wild card open mic here from me behind. It's now night here in Ennistymon, Ireland. I'm joining you from the Falls Hotel and Spa with a very historic connection to that very lyrical poet, Dylan Thomas. It was, I think of Emily Dickinson's Wild Nights, Wild Nights. It was a wild night tonight with all of your remarkable, remarkable poetry. Would you all please take a moment to unmute and show your appreciation for each other?
Much love.
Everybody.
Wonderful program.
Thank you,
Yeah,
everybody.
wonderful,
Thank you
wonderful.
for the joy.
Bravo,
for
bravo.
Very well,
Yes.
Sandy.
inspiring. Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Awesome.
Get your voice
Sandy,
back.
be
Thank
well.
you.
Great
Be
night.
Thank you.
well.
Be well. Take care.
Well,
Bye.
Good health.
thank you, everybody. I'm gonna dispense of saying all the names. You've been here tonight. You heard them. You heard them all. Beautiful, beautiful readings tonight. I want to remind you that keep going on with Poetry Month, my friends. Keep going. We will come back for the first week of June, first week of May. I skipped May. We'll come back first week of May with our very first program, our Poets Focus. We have just some amazing poetry coming up in the month of May. Just stick with the poetry this month. You know, stay inspired, as one of you wrote in the chat. Stay inspired, and as I say every week, I say every time, take very good care of yourselves. Obviously, I need to do that now. Take exceptionally good care of your beloveds. Oh, just keep writing your remarkable poems, my friends. Just keep writing. Oh, you're doing a great job. I'll look forward to seeing you in May. Thanks to Don, thanks to Kim, and thanks to every single one of you here live in Zoom with us, those of you watching on Facebook, and those of you who watch the recording. We're so appreciative for all your support. And for those of you here in Ireland, there's still a bit of time for me to see you on the road. I hope to meet up with you along the way. That's it for tonight. I'm Sandy Yannone for Cultivating Voices, live poetry, and hoping my voice comes back soon.
Yes. Sandy,
Take good care,
see you next Sunday, Sandy. Keep
Yeah.
keep sipping the Guinness for